You made it to level 2, deeper questions leading to deeper answers. I'm Tomas Garza, and I'm here to help you decide to transform. I'll be setting the pace for the process to support your unfolding. Learn and commit to a practice that brings simplicity and then awareness of what is ready to be released. Join me now and allow the experience of a deeper sense of love. Hello and welcome to Decide to Transform. I'm your host, Tomas Garza, and we have a very special guest in store for you today, a wonderful interview. Joining me from Tucson, Arizona is an Ontario native, Deirdre Maloney. Deirdre is very involved in women's health and holistic healing. She's a holistic healing mentor and the author of the self-help book, Unfold Me, and a passionate advocate for all mental health, setting an example for people of self-acceptance. Deirdre is actually one of Canada's best-known competitive cyclists and has the first all-female competitive cycling team called Highgate Racing. And she joins us today again from Tucson, Arizona. Deirdre, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. What a generous intro you have for me. Thank you.
You're most welcome. And frankly, there's so much here that I want to talk about. But first, let's talk about the fact that you're on the road and you're traveling. You're from Ontario. You're joining us today from Arizona. So how long have you been traveling?
We left Ontario, Canada on December 18th. And so it's been about 2.5 months now, and we'll be away for at least another 2 months.
Okay.
And this is a yearly trip we do. So every year we leave at the same time and we spend the winter away. We're snowbirds. Mm-hmm. And we're a little bit young, so it feels weird calling ourselves snowbirds because I'll just be turning 41 this year. My husband's turning 39.
No, I gotcha.
And but we just love the lifestyle. Who wouldn't, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Who wouldn't? And a lot of the listeners that know me know that I've been a part of this lifestyle as well. Now, where have you all been? You're in Arizona now, and this is an annual event. So what are some of the best places that you've been to?
Well, in the winter, we usually stick to North America. We have traveled to France with the kids, and my husband and I have been to Hawaii and Greece, a few different places. But generally, the last few years, we've stuck to North America because we like to take the car with us because it saves us a lot of money. You don't want to have to rent a vehicle when you get over to the other side, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's been key for us. And we just love the United States. It's so vast and so beautiful, and as well as Canada is too. But, winters are harsh there. And it's lovely to come over to the United States. We started this year out actually in Florida. So we were all the way over on the one side. And then we drove all the way to Arizona with 3 kids, the dog, all our bikes. The van is just packed up to the roof. And we did 34 hours straight driving to get to Arizona.
Okay. Wow. So 34 hours straight, that's quite a road trip. Now, how'd the kids hold up during that?
Surprisingly well.
Okay.
They did a lot better this year than they did last year. Last year, we drove home to Canada from Arizona straight. And the little guy didn't sleep much. The youngest is only 2.5. So you can imagine that's a lot of sitting time for him. Yeah, so he did a lot better this year, which was great. And the kids, they don't love that long travel. We used to do it where we would stop. So we would drive 7 hours per day. We'd get a hotel, we'd eat out for dinner, we'd use the pool, the gym. We kind of turned this a week of travel to wherever we were headed into an event. But because of COVID, it's you're not sure what states are open, or is the pool open, what restaurants is, so all these restrictions on, we just thought, let's just get straight to where we're going because we know it's open there, right? When we were going to Florida. And so let's just get straight there. And same with Arizona. We know it's open here. So let's just get straight there and settle in. So that's what we did this year. And we actually really liked it. We didn't feel too tired. We found actually traveling for the week, doing 7 hours a day, more exhausting than just doing the overnight travel and arriving. So that was really interesting too, because I would have thought it would be different.
Okay. Well, you make a really interesting point. So, for the listeners, those that may be listening 2 or 3 years from now, thank you very much for tuning in, first of all, to this conversation. But we're recording this during the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the response of different US states has been completely diverse and all over the map. And
Yes.
some are very shut down and locked down, and others are not locked down at all. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's interesting you say that because normally, like last year, we went to California. So we spent 2 months in California, then we
Mhm.
came for 2 months to Arizona. We wanted to repeat that this year, but because California was so locked down, we said, well, we can't go there, right? I mean, it's crazy what's going on over there right now. So we chose Florida because it's the open state.
Okay. Yeah, and it's really interesting this year with all of the travel restrictions and things that people have to plan. But eventually, you have to think that we'll be able to travel freely again, like we used to, and you'll still be doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
I love
My
it.
dream is to do around the world trip, to take a year off, and because we homeschool our kids, so that's another way we're able to do this, is we're homeschooling these kids.
Hmm.
And I would
Hmm.
love to do kind of like a backpack, around the world with them for a year and just go hop different countries. So yes, hopefully things open up again for us all to travel
Yeah,
freely.
I think that they will. Now, I mean, as someone that's doing this right now, especially during this climate, there have to be a lot of people that are watching you on social media. And what would you say to the people that are itching to do exactly what you're doing right now?
I say just go for it. We really have to lose the fear, right? I think a lot of people right now, they're just so scared and they're so fearful. And the media and some governments are really pumping this into people. And I think, if you're healthy and there's no reason that you can't travel right now. We can still travel and be safe. Right. There's no
Yeah.
reason. I'm here, in the home with my family. We're not out in massive groups everywhere. We're doing what we would do at home
Mhm.
here. So it's just as safe as if we were at home. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and this is something that when I was traveling, I used to say, just do it, because I mean, this was not during a pandemic when my wife and I lived in Mexico, and people would say, "Oh, well, I'll do that one day."
Mm.
Right. And now you're doing this, and you've been doing it for years. And now you're also highly involved in, you have your bikes. Tell us about the cycling community and your cycling team.
Yeah. So my husband and I are super passionate about cycling. We're
Okay.
both competitive cyclists. And I'm the founder of Canada's largest all female competitive cycling team, Highgate Racing. We have about 24 women on the team. And we have women that compete at the master's level, so which is age 30 and up for women. And then we also have a U23 team. We have
Hmm.
about 6 athletes there. So this is under 23. Most of these girls are still in school, they're working jobs. So I have a sponsorship program for them to help provide them with some financial assistance, some products for cycling that help them take the cost of cycling down, because it's a really expensive sport. So I'm really passionate about helping keep young women in sport because there's not a lot of support for them there.
Right.
And I believe sport changed my life. It saved my marriage. It was my first form of meditation, and it releases stress and anxiety. It keeps your body healthy. So I'm just really passionate about people in sport, but especially girls, because I think once you get to a certain age as a female, where that support's not there and there's not a strong female community, it's hard to stay in the sport. It's easy to leave. So I really like supporting the young girls on my team. It's something I'm passionate about. And I think it's something that our team is really well known for in Canada.
Good.
That, we have this program, and, these young women, they really like being a part of it. So yeah, it's fun. And so this is why my husband and I travel through the winter, because we want to ride our bikes outside, and we can't do that in Canada. So we find really cool spots, and Tucson is just beautiful. The mountains here are
Yeah.
gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
cycling community.
It really is. And for the listeners, I live in Phoenix and right here in Arizona. Tucson is very beautiful. There's no question about that. Now, Deirdre, I'm really interested in some of your experience around this because I think it's very interesting that you say sport was was a form of meditation and that it saved your marriage. So where
Mhm.
were you prior to finding sport in this case?
Yeah, so I think I've always been, into fitness since about the age of 20.
Mhm.
But finding sport, I actually, after my third child, so it would have been the second child with my husband, we had two kids back to back, just a year apart.
Okay.
And so I had a 1 year old and a newborn baby. And, I had postpartum depression. I had already been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and was medicated for that at the time. So my mental health was not strong at this time, and so my marriage was suffering because of it. I also had my oldest daughter was 12, 13, so she's kind of starting to go into that stage of hormonal, and her father wasn't involved in her life, so she was struggling too. And so the home for me, it was just a really stressful place because I had this teenager that was going off course. Then I had a 1 year old and a newborn, and I have postpartum depression. There was nothing left to give my husband. Like, I was just, leave me alone, stay away from me. We were starting to fight all the time. We would fight a lot about my oldest daughter because it's his stepdaughter. So I would always pull the card, well, she's not your daughter, you don't understand, right? When he would want to try to
Okay.
discipline or like give his advice.
Mhm.
I didn't feel like I could 100% trust that he was coming from a good place in his heart, because I thought maybe he's just bothered by her, or I had some
Okay.
negative thought patterns around that, that I've since fixed and apologized for, because I really didn't treat him properly in that area at that time. So what happened is we just weren't spending time together, and we said, we really got to do something here because our marriage is going to fall apart. We're hanging on by a thread.
Okay.
And I said, why don't we start running? Because it'll help me get back in shape. It's going to put me in a better mood, because exercise releases those endorphins. It's so important. And then we're going to spend quality time together. So we went out, we hired ourselves a coach, and we met her once a week, and we did running intervals on a track. And then she gave us a program for the rest of the week. So we start, spending time together, and we were really enjoying it. And it ended up, she was a professional triathlete. So eventually she's like, why don't you buy a bike? Hey, try swimming.
Okay.
So eventually we got into triathlon, and we fell head over heels in love with it. And that's eventually, we just moved on to cycling because the running was just too hard on our bodies to do it at that high level, the competitive level, right?
Sure. I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I can
Yeah. So
imagine. Mhm.
the meditative part, I would say, is that, when you go out for a run or you go out for a bike ride, you kind of get into this zone, right? And you can just, you have to focus on what you're doing. You have to be in the present moment because you need to watch, where's your foot landing, or where's your bike, is there cracks? So you're really mindful of what's going on around you. And so you can't, sometimes you can get lost and slip away, but you do kind of have to be in that present moment. So that's where I associate it with mindfulness, right? And
Mhm.
sort of
Mhm.
my first introduction to meditation, even though I didn't know at the time that's what I was doing, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay. So as a meditation instructor, I have to tell you, I love that. Just
yeah.
kind of snuck it in there.
Nice.
It's like making kids eat their vegetables, their green
Yeah,
vegetables, right?
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's what I
Yeah.
love about yoga too, is you can
Mhm.
introduce people to it. They don't realize necessarily that mindfulness piece. And
Yeah.
I just, it's beautiful. And then later on, once I got into meditation, like for real, then I could look back and be like, oh, I've sort of done this already. Okay. It's, we take these little steps and we don't know necessarily where they're going, but it's interesting when you look back, hindsight 2020, right?
It is. It's really fascinating when you look at a journey like that, whether it's meditation or yoga or anything in that category. Now, what does your daily practice look like now, as far as the meditation goes?
We do about 20 minutes as a family. So as soon as the
Oh,
2.5-year-old goes to bed,
mhm.
we put on we have an app that we share, and we just pick a meditation. So we'll do 15 to 20 minutes. and we sit with the kids, the two other kids, and we all close our eyes, and we sit in the moment and we do our meditation. Then I also
Yeah.
sometimes do it on my own. If I'm feeling a little stressed, or if I notice my husband's stressed, I'll say, okay, come on, let's go, let's do a meditation. um, it's saved my life. And honestly, I was medicated, I told you earlier, for bipolar disorder for about
Mhm.
14 years. The doctors
Right.
told me I would never, ever come off this medication. I've been off the medication for 2 years since meditating every day regularly. I
Yeah.
truly believe that our brains can be rewired back to health after experiencing trauma if we take the right steps and we're supported, and we have that guideline, that base of exercise, nutrition, mindfulness practice.
Yeah. Now, this plays into your work then as a holistic healing mentor, then, doesn't it? So, tell us what you mean by holistic healing mentor.
Yeah, so holistic healing to me is, using those aspects, like I said, the exercise, nutrition,
Mhm.
and mindfulness practice. Because I was medicated for so long, and I'm not knocking medication. I think medication is a great place for people to start. Sometimes you can't just start meditating and exercising and eating healthy and then all of a sudden feel better. It's a practice. It takes time, right? And so in during that time, you may need medication if you've experienced trauma, or you're depressed, or you have some other mental health issues. You may need that medication to just help you be able to stick to a healthy routine. And then once that healthy routine is set in, then maybe with the guidance of your doctor, you may want to consider trying to come off the medication if you can stick to your mindfulness practice. So I guess that's what I advocate for. Is I think that, in the medical world, people get diagnosed and they get put on medications, and then it's sort of like, this is what's wrong with you, this is what you need to do, and then you just get stuck there, and then you almost use it as a crutch, like, well, I have bipolar disorder, so it makes sense that I do that. I have high anxiety, right? And then you can almost
Right.
use it as an excuse to not have this personal growth.
Okay.
But I truly believe, because I mean, there's not many people that were lower in life than I was. Like, I just was at the bottom, right? I've been
Mhm.
homeless, I've been addicted to drugs, I've been on welfare. I had the teenage pregnancy, I was a prostitute. It's just, things were not looking good for me. There's no reason that I should be living the life I am today, except that I started to believe in myself, and I started these holistic methods to take care of myself. So that's where I say I'm the mentor. Is I'm not a coach. I don't have time to coach people as a job. I homeschool my kids. I'm passionate with my husband. We like our activities, our sports. So I want to give back to the community. And so that's where I say I'm a mentor, where I just like to put out content for people that they can see how I'm living my lifestyle, where I've been, where I am, and kind of the journey of how I got there, which is what my book is about.
Okay.
And yeah, just to show them that it is possible to be healthy again, and that we don't have to get like stuck with a label.
Yeah, we really don't. And yours is a tremendous story that you cover in your book, Unfold Me. And you just mentioned a number of things just a second ago that I think we could talk about on many different podcast episodes. But and before we venture into some of that, it's a great story about how people are able, each of us is capable of making the kind of decisions and transitions that you have made. How old were you when you started taking the bipolar medication?
Yeah, I was 26,
Okay.
let's say maybe 25 years old, actually.
Hmm.
Yeah, 25.
25.
Yeah. And it was
Okay.
life changing. It changed my life. It was a blessing that I got on that medication back then. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of people that were on medications like that that would say the exact same thing. And, maybe they're off them now, maybe they're not. But take us through some of your book, then, Unfold Me, and some of your journey, because it's designed, as we've talked about, to help readers shift shame that they might be experiencing in their own lives. So would you say
Mhm.
some more about that?
Yeah, so I felt a lot of shame. And how this book came to fruition is after my last child, so baby number four, I was 37 years old, 36. I had a complete meltdown, breakdown, because the shame of my past was so heavy on me.
Okay.
And I was in the cycling community. Nobody knew about my past. I was hiding it from everybody. The only
Mm.
person that knew was my husband. And I had a really close girlfriend that knew. And I was just terrified that if people found out anything about my past, that they wouldn't accept me. The cycling community wouldn't want anything to do with me. And so I felt like I was sort of living this fake life, like trying to be the Martha Stewart, always cooking and baking and making everything perfect and, making everyone happy. And I had this breakdown when I got pregnant with baby number four because he was an IUD pregnancy. We weren't planning on having more kids.
Okay.
So it was
Hmm.
it was a little bit devastating to find out I was pregnant at 37 when we were starting to get ready to do this lifestyle, right? Travel and everything was like, oh, how's this going to work with a baby, right?
Hmm.
So that was a really difficult time. And I got myself into a women's healing circle and started sharing my story. I said, I got to get this out. I got to let someone know what is going on. And these women, they accepted me. They wrapped their arms around me. They loved me. And then I thought, okay, if these ladies accept me, maybe other people will too. And I just came to the realization that I can't be alone. There's got to be other women, men, people out there just hiding something because they
Yeah.
feel like they won't be accepted.
Hmm.
And I thought, if I can share my story and let other people know, hey, grade 8 level education here, prostitution, drug addiction, but I still live my dream life. I'm still married. I have beautiful kids. I travel. I do anything that I want to
Hmm.
do. And I believe in myself. If I can do this, you can do it too. And so I thought that's my opportunity to write the book, to have someone read my story and then look at it and say, oh, wow, if she can accept herself after doing all of that, then maybe I can accept myself too. And that's my goal is I just want people
Yeah.
to accept and love themselves.
Absolutely. And you are absolutely correct. There are people out there, women and men, who are hiding something, whatever that is. And this is a very profound message that the healing is possible.
Hmm.
So, how old were you when you got involved in drugs?
Yeah, I was really young. I would say by 12, I was drinking alcohol quite regularly, like,
Mm.
every week, smoking cigarettes.
Hmm.
And then by 13, I had tried pot. And then 14, it was game on, acid, mushrooms, LS, everything. By 15, I had tried crack, cocaine, heroin. And then at that point, by the age of 15, I was pretty addicted. Like I was on drugs at least 3 or 4 days a week. I wasn't going to
Oh, wow.
school. I was, bumming around on the streets of Toronto, going to raves, these kind of underground parties,
Yeah.
and hanging out with really unsavory people. And all I wanted to do was disappear. I had been sexually abused as a child. So that's where the pain was coming from.
Mm. Hmm. Hmm.
And my parents, they didn't support me when everything came out. My parents didn't support me. The police didn't support me. They said I was lying about it, as well as Children's Aid. So you have all these people that are supposed to protect you,
Oh,
but they
yeah.
didn't. And then at the age of 10, I was raped by a 16-year-old. So you can imagine, I mean, I have a 9-year-old daughter now, and I look at her and I just think, my God, that is just way too young to be experiencing something like that.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was just searching for love because I equated love with sexual acts because of the sexually abuse I had experienced. I thought this is what men want. And so I felt a lot of shame. Like even at that young age, I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I thought that that's what men wanted. So I went with it because I was
Mm.
desperate to have love.
Yeah.
And because of that shame that I was feeling, that's where the drugs have to come in because now you need to numb those feelings. And it just becomes this really vicious circle.
Okay. And and you were involved in that then for several years. But what enabled you to get out of that?
Well, I got pregnant at the age of 18. So I had my daughter when I was 19.
Okay.
So that got me off of the drugs, because as soon as I found out I was pregnant, I just quit everything cold turkey. Cigarettes, alcohol, and cocaine and crack is actually what I was mostly using at that time. And I moved back home and I got myself a job and I saved all my money. I just got into this mindset like, okay, I'm going to have this baby. I need to straighten myself out. And I was able to straighten myself out for a good few years. Like I think I had about 3 solid years of being sober and just being a really mindful parent as best as I could at that young age, anyways. And, but I was still with this abusive boyfriend that, I'd had the baby with, and he went to prison for some of that time, which is why I was able to stay so healthy minded, because he wasn't with me. But as soon as he
Okay.
got out of prison and was back in my life, he started using drugs again and reintroduced them to me. So I guess at the age when my daughter was about 3, I got back on drugs for about 2 years. It was sort of like a weekend thing, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. She would go to his mom's for the weekend. We would just party. And then finally, after a year or so of that, he left me because I was constantly like, we can't be doing this. We need to change. And then he eventually just found someone else that wanted to keep that party going. He left, which was a blessing. I was devastated at the time. I
Sure.
thought,
Yeah.
how am I going to survive? And now I look back and I say that the girl that he left me for is my guardian angel, because she came down to save me from the life that I was never meant to live.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know this woman then? And
I had, you know what? I don't think I've ever actually met her in person. I do know her and I've seen pictures of her. They're not together anymore, of course. That didn't last. But yeah, I consider her my guardian angel.
yeah.
And another thing that really was life changing for me is the book, The Secret. So I read that when I was about 25. I had
Okay.
just gotten off the drugs and cleaned up. Um, it was someone that confronted me in the gym is how I really got off the drugs, because I was still using them after her father left me.
Okay.
He was
Yeah.
actually a cocaine dealer. So I would just go to one of his guys and say, give me some stuff, put it on his bill. So I could get free drugs at any time, which is not great for someone who's addicted, right? So I got confronted by someone that I worked at the gym with. That was a personal trainer, which is kind of funny, right? I'm a personal trainer in the health industry, and then I'm doing these drugs all weekend long. It's just a mess. He confronted me. I had the scabs under my nose every Monday morning when I came into work. I was tired. You could tell I hadn't been sleeping. So he asked me if I was partying, doing drugs. Finally, I admit that, yes, I am, but it's not a problem. And he scolded me. He's like, you are a mother. How dare you do this? Like, you are responsible for a human life, to be an example. And those were the words I needed to hear. It just was a slap in the face. I called all my friends. I told them I can't hang out anymore. And I got into therapy. I got on the medication for the bipolar disorder. And I read the book, The Secret. And that book was the first introduction to the power of positive thought, which I had
Okay.
never learned about before. No one had ever taught me that you could change the way you think. I thought you were stuck with whatever was going on in there.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think that most of us that are, in our 40s, 50s, were raised to think that, yeah, we're just dropped here. Here we are. Now make the best of it.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
our parents didn't have those skills, right? No one had ever taught them that. So yeah,
No.
it's luck
Yeah.
to be able to pick up that book.
And tell us a little bit more about the impact then of the book on you. I mean, you mentioned just a second ago, it was your first introduction to positive thinking. So how else did this go to work on you?
Yeah, I really paid attention specifically to relationships and finances. Those
Okay.
two chapters, they were the most
Mm-hmm.
impactful on me. And I followed everything they said to a T. I actually still have the check at home that I wrote, that would be more than 12 years ago, to myself for $100 million, because they said, write yourself a check, make it like an amount that is just poof. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I wrote the check to myself, signed my name, and I still have the check at home. It actually hangs on my bathroom wall at home. I have like an affirmation wall in my bathroom. And, at the time I was living at home with my parents. I just had a really low income job. I had no idea how I was ever going to achieve anything, buy a house or have a decent job or income, like just no clue on how any of it was going to happen. But I followed the instructions to a T. They tell you to feel it. And I would feel chills. I would just think about this dream life that I didn't know I was going to achieve. And I would get chills over it. And the relationship chapter, I followed to a T. I would actually go around and tell people that I'm already married. I just haven't met my husband yet, but he's out there and he loves me so much. And when I would say that, I would actually feel it, like this excitement inside. I met my husband 2 months after, and we got engaged within 6 months and married within a year and a half. And now it's been 12 years of absolute bliss. Yeah. So that book it's a powerful book if you are really able to embody its intentions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, when you work with let's say young women as a healing mentor, how do you work with them? I mean, what do you use books like The Secret, or what is your process like?
So I buy the book for lots of young women. So I actually just sent one back home to a young girl that I know. She's not on my cycling team, but I can just tell she's ready to really, embody the message. So I surprised her and sent her that book. I bought the book for every youth on my team. I also get them to do creative writing. So we have Highgate Racing has a blog. And so I'll get each of the girls, monthly to write a blog about whatever their experiences in cycling, and to really focus on like how they're feeling, right? To like get in touch with, how they're feeling about stuff. And that's what I love so much about writing, is it really, it forces you to look at things in another perspective, because people are going to read it. So you kind of have to think of it outside of yourself a little bit. Right. And I think it's such a beautiful thing. So I find that one of the best tools is writing stuff down. So that's what I do with them. I try to work on that, building up that idea that we are controllers of our thoughts, that we can create powerful, positive thinking, and to help them cultivate some writing habits.
Okay. Yeah. And now, are all of these young women a part of the cycling team, or do they come from other areas as well?
Mostly the young women that I work with right now, are on the cycling team. I'm just about to launch actually a women's healing circle. So we're going to be connecting with some women in the community, me and one of my friends that I partner up with. And in there, we're going to just work on trying to process different things by, coming up with like, what's the story you're telling yourself in your head? So I think that's a lot of the time is we hold ourselves back because of an imaginary story. Like, I can't travel because, when I get there, or my family's going to think I'm a bad person and my community's going to judge me. And we tell ourselves all this stuff, but that's just the story, right? We don't know if that's true or not. So why would we listen to something that's just maybe not real, right?
Right. And what you're talking about is human experience, because we all have these stories. And you have done a lot of work on yourself to be able to, number one, recognize them for what they are, so then they can be released and let go, reframed, however you want to do it. Now, when you work with young women, are there other things, other techniques or methods that you use to help them shift shame that they might be feeling about their own past or their own lives?
No, I think just the writing and meditation, of course, introducing them to meditation, because that's a time when, if we're telling ourselves these stories and we have these made up things, if we can sit and do a meditation and come to the present moment. And a lot of times in these guided meditations, they're prompting you, right, to just, okay, that thought came in, but now you can just let it go, watch it go to the side. You don't have to get caught up in the story, right?
Yeah, I think it's really helpful. When I started meditating, we didn't have cell phones or the internet. This was the 1980s, so I didn't have apps like Insight Timer that would tell me anything. I just thought I was doing it wrong when I'd have random thoughts. So,
well, I think that's important for people to understand too, is that meditation is not about being quiet. It's
Right.
about allowing the thoughts to come and recognizing them and then letting them continue to move on, right? It's not meant that your mind goes completely blank and you don't think at all, right? I don't think
Mhm.
that's possible. I mean, maybe some people can do that, but I ain't one of them.
Well, yeah, I'm not either. I still start thinking about street tacos or something fun
Yeah,
or a
yeah,
hike. I don't know, something like
yeah.
that.
All of a
Yeah.
sudden I'm out riding my bike in
Yes.
the in my mind, right?
Yeah. Along the writing theme, which I think is really wonderful, I mean, it does force another perspective because somebody is going to be reading it. Now, you're at work on another book right now. Tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, right now the second book is a cookbook. So it's a
Okay.
plant-based cookbook.
Love
I've
it.
been eating plant-based for about 7 years.
Hmm.
And, I had a lot of shame like around body image, around eating. I used to binge eat a lot. So
Oh,
that was something that transferred over when I stopped using the drugs. Well, you got to fill it with something. And I filled it with food. That was my new addiction. So what I would do is I would starve myself all week and then I would binge eat on the weekends. So that was my sort of drug replacement.
okay.
And it's when I started eating a plant-based diet, it changed my relationship with food because now I was mindful about what I was eating.
Hmm.
Where's my food from? Right? Like, how is it grown? Animal agriculture and
Yeah.
just the health benefits behind the food. Like, how is this affecting my body? And so when I started looking at food from that different angle, I was able to release the binge eating that I had been doing, which was a blessing. So that's also,
Hmm.
I love promoting a plant-based diet. I
Okay.
like, um, I think it's, really healthy and it's, a great way for mindful eating and it's just great for the environment and the animals and all that stuff. So I love it. And so I put together a plant-based cookbook because I'm super passionate about cooking and food. And my husband and I, because we do the competitive sport, we eat pretty clean and pretty healthy. So I thought, why not share these recipes with everybody? Then it was also a way for me to give back to my cycling team because 10% of the profits will go to my youth development program.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah.
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 I
So
love
that's
it.
fun. So that's almost done. It should be out in a few weeks.
In a few weeks, what's the title?
Unfolding in the kitchen because
Unf
I was, my book is Unfold Me and this is Unfolding in the Kitchen. Yeah.
Okay, let's play with this picture of unfolding. I like this. What does that
Mm-hmm.
mean to you? It's,
Yeah.
it's in both your
Unfolding.
book titles. Yeah.
It was really easy for me to come up with, and I'll tell you why. I have
Okay.
a
Yeah.
really good girlfriend. Her name is Paulina Allen. She was a
Okay.
professional triathlete in Canada. She's very well known in the sporting community. She's been to Kona, competed at the highest level of triathlon that you can compete at. And I was at she was winning an award, a sports related award, and was being inducted to the Hall of Fame in her town. And her speech, she said that she coaches swimmers, young swimmers. And she said that her young swimmers, her young athletes are like butterflies just coming out of the cocoon. And as they emerge, their wings need to be unfolded so very delicately
Uh,
because they're just so precious and you need to take care of them. And it's this gentle process of allowing them to fully bloom. And I was listening to her and I sort of got tears in my eyes and I thought, oh, if someone had have thought of me that way as a child, if someone
mm,
had have wanted to unfold me delicately, how different would things have been? So I said, this is my time to unfold myself delicately. And as soon as I have a blog, it's called The Unfolding Project. And that's where I first started exposing a little bit of my story to test the waters and see how it would be
gotcha.
received because I
Yeah,
was terrified. I was terrified.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
and that went well. So I thought, okay, we're going to go with the book. So Unfold Me is just about me unfolding myself. And so I just stayed with the unfolding theme and we went unfolding in the kitchen. This is how I unfold in the
Okay.
kitchen.
I love the theme of unfolding. So, in the unfolding project, are you surprised at all by the positive support that you got when you began to share your story a piece at a time?
Yeah, I am. Like, certain people would reach out to me that I never imagined were following along or anything. And they would just say, wow, I'm really enjoying your journey and what an amazing life you've had. And this is just thank you for sharing so vulnerably, because it makes me feel not alone. Right. And I get a lot of
Yeah,
messages like that.
good.
And that makes it all worthwhile, right? For any of the negative feedback I've gotten, which really isn't very much.
Good.
That's more just from my family
Oh,
that don't want me
yeah.
exposing these things, right?
I see.
But yeah, generally people have been really great about it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and I very much appreciate your candor and your willingness to share here on this podcast. So thank you so much for being willing and open to do that. I, I
Oh
think
yeah.
it really impacts a lot of people, because you never know who's out there listening right now who is dying to, say, reach out to you because you've been there and you've moved through and beyond this. So how would people get a hold of you if they'd like to find out more information about you, your journey, and what you're involved in?
Yeah. So my blog is theunfoldingproject.com. And then my website is Maloney, Maloney.com. And then they can get into my Facebook and my Instagram, everything from there. I have a great wellness group on Facebook. It's called Wellness from Within. And we're in there every day, helping to motivate people on their wellness journey, whether it's with mindfulness, nutrition, or exercise.
Okay. And that's Wellness from Within, a Facebook group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, so it's the unfoldingproject.com, which is your blog, and D Maloney, DeeMaloney.com.
Yeah,
Did I get that spelling right?
you got it.
I often get that wrong, but that's the one. Okay. At DeeMaloney.com to find out a little bit more about you and what you're up to. And the cookbook is coming out in a few weeks. So
Yes.
congratulations on that. That's going to
Thank
be
you.
fun as well. So, Deirdre, before we wrap up here, there's been a lot that you've shared. So, number one, thank you again for being willing to do that, because you never know who's out there that was dying to hear your message today, wherever they are. What else would you add before we wrap up for people?
Yeah, I think just don't, when you're feeling in that fear place, which I feel like a lot of people do live from there,
Mm-hmm.
just know that there is more out there, and reach out for help. Like, connection is so important. We need to be connected. So whether you're connecting with a good friend or you get connected with a therapist, talk about things, share things in a safe place where you feel comfortable, because that's when things change. When we keep things bottled up inside, that's where they stay, and it's so much turmoil. If you can learn to voice it, it's releasing it.
Yeah.
So even if it's writing it on paper, it's saying it out loud, just get it out. Yeah, you won't regret it.
That's for sure. Yeah, you definitely won't regret it, and you're living proof of the fact
Yeah.
that
And it's not to say that it's easy though, right? Like, I think sometimes me sitting here just can make it seem like this is an easy process. There was a lot of pain. There was a lot of struggle. I'm not going to lie, but it is worth it.
right.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really, really excellent point, is there's a difference between simple and easy. And yeah, these decisions are not easy. And as you said,
Mm-hmm.
it is most definitely a process with
Yeah.
ups and downs and stops and starts. All
Yeah.
right. Yes. Well, Deirdre, this has been wonderful. I really very much appreciate you joining me here on the show today. Thank you. This has been so much fun and a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you to all the listeners.
And this has been Decide to Transform with Deirdre Maloney, who's back off to cycle in beautiful Tucson, Arizona. All right. If it's winter where you are, where you're listening, then, well, it'll be over with someday very soon. All right. Everybody, thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day.